On today's episode of Tila Takes Over, I show you how I designed and built this channel tufted headboard as part of this Pink Palace makeover series. If you're looking for inspo on how to make big impact design choices in your space while keeping your budget, you're in the right place. This video is part 2 of my Pink Palace bedroom makeover series, in which I transform this bedroom into a magnificent place of rest for my lovely clients. Be sure to follow along to catch each part. Now, I want to preface this video by stating that I'm clearly not an upholstery professional, nor am I claiming this is a perfect design. I made a few of the poor design choices purposefully due to the sheer size of this piece, as well as the fact that I was working on it alone and had to build it in 2 different areas. I based this design off these images online. I actually couldn't even find a headboard for purchase that matched my design specifications. I needed the headboard to extend all the way to the roof in the design for this room. Again, I'm not an upholsterer, nor am I a carpenter, and the client needed a whole new bed frame. So I ordered a basic bed frame online for the bed portion and wrapped that with my material to have both pieces match as if they were made together. Using these inspo photos, I came up with dimensions for the headboard piece. I needed to make sure that the dimensions fit naturally with the prefabricated frame we had got, and making sure while being at the roof line that the bottom of the headboard also sat at the top of the main bed frame piece without a gap. My other main concern was needing to make sure that the top appeared at the roofline while also giving me just enough space to attach braces at the top for support. I would have preferred to use 1/2-inch wood for the main panel for the headboard, but again, I had to make choices. If you have the capabilities, I highly recommend choosing a thicker wood for the main panel. I started by building the platform piece with 1/4-inch pine and 2x3s for the supports, with my plan to attach the post to the piece after the platform was built. I then drew out what my channel sections would be and tried to guesstimate if the foam panels I had cut would work, along with what the measurements would have to be for the batting pieces. The foam pieces I had cut were to 4-inch wide, and I ended up with the measurements of 8-inch on the batting and 9-inch on the fabric. Important note here, I figured this all out as I went and ended up using way more fabric than I initially accounted for. I think at least 3 to 4 times more. I made the mistake of not accounting for how much extra fabric under each tufted piece would use to create the channel tufted look, which I gather means that each piece stands on its own more or less. It's not just stapled down and then continued folded over. Learn from my mistakes. You'll need an extraordinary amount of fabric. Also, important note, you'll notice that on each piece of fabric, I mark an X. It's so important that you make a system to make sure each piece of your fabric pile all ends up the same way on your finished piece. After I finished prepping a large amount of the supplies, I moved on to installing the cardboard tack strips to each line so my stapler would have a guide to keeping the line straight as I worked, being that the lines would be covered with fabric each time. I don't know if there's a better option for this out there, but I was annoyed with how the layers separated from themselves when unrolling them. You need to make sure you're consistent with which side of your lines you're attaching these strips to. I got turned around when I switched to the second side of the bed and ended up having to remove and redo some lines. It's finally time to start putting together the foam and fabric on this masterpiece. I initially had thought I wanted to do 2 layers of batting for a more round look, for an extra luxurious feel, but I decided that 1 layer should be enough, not only for budgetary reasons, but also complexity. I decided the best plan of attack to attach the padding pieces was to pre-glue the batting onto all sides of the foam piece, ensuring the corners were rounded out. If you've done any of my paint education programs, you know I'm all about batching tests for efficiency, so I started by preparing a handful of pieces off to the side so they were readily available during the fabric attaching process. The side pieces of this headboard obviously needed more fabric and more batting to wrap around the frame, so a little bit of extra planning is required there. I went with 12-inch sections of fabric and 10-inch sections of batting. They also required a little extra tension in terms of placing, pulling, and attaching the fabric since they wrap around extra length. Each middle channel starts out by being attached along the line of the last, making sure the fabric will fold over the cushion piece without exposing the back of the fabric. I believe this is where the term channel comes into play. Each piece is its own individual channel. that all the channels are on, it's time to fold them over the frame. Personally, I think this was the most challenging part to make look super professional, and again, I had to figure out this technique as I went. I started by trimming down the length of the batting and then ended up trimming the corners off as well to help with how they sat once folded over. The real trick is figuring out how the fabric needed to be cut and folded on each one to create a smooth and consistent line. I used a piece of wood underneath the frame to lift it up and give me some room to work underneath and get the stapler in. You're likely to create better results if you have more adequate room to work. Time to flip over and install the post pieces. Honestly, I don't know why I didn't video this. It was a long week. I installed a piece of 2x3x8 on either end and one in the middle that reached from the floor and sat right underneath my top support beam. I installed 2 flat braces from the support beam on top of the frame and one on each side, all using heavyweight anchors. And this is what the room looks like all put together with the headboard I built. Make sure to follow along in this series where I show you how to make pillows and how I painted these IKEA night tables to match the palette.